Welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. Are you over 40 and tired of struggling with your weight, dieting, and constantly feeling like you're starting over with nutrition and fitness? Do you wish you had more energy? Do you want to lose weight and finally keep it off for good? I'm Lil, a certified nutrition coach and former registered nurse. I too have been there, and at the age of 44, I decided I was done with fad diets and chasing a lower number on the scale. I was so tired of constantly starting over and wondering why I couldn't get lasting results. I became a nutrition coach and created the Feel Your Best formula for women who want to build muscle, lose fat, and keep it off for good. If you're ready to build a better relationship with food, the scale, and your body, let's build your formula for feeling your best. If you're new here, make sure to check the episode details for the link to my newbie starter guide. You'll receive an email straight to your inbox with everything you need to start building your Feel Your Best formula. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello, good morning. I'm really excited to share with you today's episode topic because I'm going to share a really powerful testimonial from one of my clients. But before we dive in, just a little housekeeping about the podcast because I have probably been overthinking and hemming and hawing about how I want to structure it moving forward. I originally had these Friday episodes. I was just going to record a quick 5 or 10 minute episode. And I just realized that's actually not something that I want to do. That's more for, my Instagram stories, just getting on there for a few minutes and talking about something quickly. And I noticed that my episodes here are generally anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. And I do still dive into things that need a little bit more nuanced discussion. So I don't want to be overthinking things. I want to be taking my cues from what you guys give me feedback on. And the stats I can see on my podcast is that a ton of you tune in on Friday and you not only listen to the Friday episode, but you often go back and catch up on anything you may have missed and you listen to Monday's episode. And I can just tell that a ton of you tune in on Mondays and even more of you tune in on Fridays. And having 2 new episodes a week is something that you guys really enjoy, appreciate, show up for, look forward to. So I just decided to stop overthinking it. I'm just going to record 2 episodes per week. My Monday episode is always going to be longer, more in depth. It's going to have show notes. There's probably going to be links, and just generally speaking, it's going to be a deeper dive into a topic. And then Fridays are going to be a little bit more casual. I'm not going to do show notes, but any links or anything I reference to, you'll be able to find in the episode details on your podcast platform. And I'm just not going to overthink it. I realize that I'm almost at the 1-year mark from publishing episode 1 year ago. And I've come so far. And part of that is because of the feedback you guys give me and just me trying to show up here in a way that gives you value and causes you to text your best friend and say, hey, you got to listen to this episode. And honestly, podcasts, unlike websites or social media, we don't really use hashtags or anything like that. There are certain search functions that you can use to find a new podcast, and the podcast platforms will push out the very, very, very top episodes or series and things like that. But for people like me who are just getting started, it is word of mouth, you guys sharing with your friends. That is how we grow. And I want to make sure that I am giving you topics that you want to listen to, that you want to share with your friends, so that I can continue to grow word of mouth the way I have been. And I'm just so proud of showing up. First it was just once a week, and now I've been showing up twice a week for the past few months. And I took a few weeks off, which I'm probably going to do once a year, probably at the end of the summer, just take a few weeks off. But other than that, showing up every single week. And I was looking at the statistics, and it's crazy. 90% of people who start a podcast do not make it past episode 3. And the fact that I've shown up here for 60 plus, I think getting close to 70 episodes at this point, I'm just really proud of that, because in the beginning there's, you get a whole bunch of people that listen to your first episode. Mostly, I think some of them just want to be nosy and see what the heck it's going to be. And then you start to see consistently who's showing up every week and what your numbers are. And I've continued to see that number grow. And I'm just really proud of the fact that what I'm saying here is resonating with you. And I want to continue to do that for you. So that's the plan. Mondays and Fridays, there's still going to be episodes. I'm just not going to be calling it a mini session anymore. It's just going to be a podcast episode. I don't want to overcomplicate things. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to share that little bit of housekeeping with you. And I'll probably have to do a special episode on the actual anniversary of starting the podcast. Okay, so in today's episode, I'm going to share a testimonial I received from one of my clients. She's given me permission to share this, and it's so powerful. And I think, especially if you've been considering working with me, that you need to listen to this, because it's not the typical testimonial that you see or hear from most people who want to help you with nutrition and fitness. It's going to be a very different testimonial. You're used to hearing people rave about how they lost 20 pounds in 2 months and yada, yada, yada. That is not what we're going to talk about here. And I have to say, it's not about me. It is about her commitment to making change and trusting the process, even when it just felt really foreign and different and hard. And the hardest part is often letting go of old beliefs and habits so that you can make space for the new ones. And she has absolutely done that. It's a journey, and I cannot wait to see where she is in another 3 months. So if you're new here, I've mentioned before that I do not share before and after photos, okay? I have an entire episode on this and why I believe that most of the photos shared out there are deceitful. I personally don't want to be part of that messaging. I fully admit that in the past, I used to share before and after photos, and I truly believe that they were a great way to inspire people, and I think they still can be, but you have to be really careful about the way that you're sharing them. And in my current business model, it is just not in alignment with the message I want to put out into the world, because I have changed my own thoughts and beliefs. And sharing before and after photos of someone who's only been working with me for, months is not something that I feel is in alignment with my overall long-term message about long-term health. And I do have my own progress photos on social media, but they're probably not what you think they would be. So if you want to check those out and see how I share that I feel best weighing 30 pounds more than I did at my so-called goal weight, then you can head over to my Instagram account at Macros with Lil and check out. I've got the photos there, but those before and after, they're not even before and afters. They're progress photos. I am just showing you how going for a goal weight is the most unhelpful thing you can do when you are chasing long-term results. And you can see in those photos that I look very different, and I share exactly what my weights are. So anyway, I'm not going to be sharing before and after photos of my clients, because that is just not something that I want to put out into the world. And I want you to listen. So, my client's name is Lisa. I want you to listen to her story because this is going to be in her words. But a little background, Lisa's in her early 50s. She never really had any issues with weight, her whole life. And she's always been generally active. But over the past couple of years, this is so typical. We get into our 40s, 50s, and she just saw the scale going up and she's gaining weight and she felt like she was getting flabbier and out of shape. And she just wasn't sure why, because she felt like she was doing a lot of the things that we know we're supposed to, like dieting, working out, the typical gotta work out and you gotta diet, but not really thinking about the bigger picture. So when she came to me, typically she was actually skipping meals and she was pretty inconsistent with her workouts. She was working out here and there, but wasn't really committed to anything in particular. And she's doing a little of this and a little of that. She had a history of doing a bunch of diets in the past and being successful when she was on the diet. But then, like so many of us experience, once she stopped following the rules of the diet, the weight would come back on. She felt she was getting a little obsessive with some of the rules around the diets that she was doing, and she knew that that wasn't healthy either. She works full-time from home, but she also travels quite a bit and goes with her husband when he's traveling for work. She loves to go out to eat. They typically go out to eat on a regular basis, and she has an active social life, lots of friends, family, and she was just struggling with those decisions that we have to make for social events and knowing, what should I be eating? What should I be drinking? And like many of us, when in a social situation, it's just you go into what we say. What I say with my clients is the best way to describe it is that F it mode, where you just say, F it, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to do what I feel like doing. And so she definitely had those moments too, where she would just eat and drink whatever she wanted because she didn't even know how to make a balanced decision. And one of the biggest things we changed immediately was her breakfast, which she would sometimes skip, or it would be very, very low in calories. When she first started tracking, some of her breakfasts were like 200 calories. And now she eats a big, filling breakfast of high protein, high fiber, starts her day right, still enjoys her coffee. And this one change, I feel like, was a huge ripple effect for her, because I know that many of you think you're doing yourself a favor or you're being, quote, good when you barely eat anything for breakfast or skip a meal because you think, oh, good, I'm eating less calories. This is great. Also, maybe skipping meals in anticipation of going out to dinner or having a social event and like you think you're like saving your calories. But if you're just kind of guessing and not really sure what you actually should be eating that would be a more balanced way of nourishing your body, often you skip the meal and then you go overboard in the social situation. So this is something that Lisa and I have worked on, and she's an absolute rock star. She really embraced the process from the beginning, okay? She was coachable. She said, Lil, tell me what to do and I will do it. I understand it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel weird. I'm coming off of decades of, dieting and trying to do things this way and that way. And she really, like I said, she really had to let go of these old ways of doing things. But she was coachable and she exhibited self-leadership by saying, okay, I'm going to experiment with these new ideas, these new meals, these new recipes, these new meal prep ideas. And she has come up with so many great ideas on her own because she also has gone through the transition of her kids being at home and now being out on their own. So not cooking for, her large family anymore and cooking most nights just for her and her husband. So she's really come up with some great plans for pre-cooking her meat, and her protein, and just coming up with strategies that work for her. And that is so key because, you taking that self-leadership in your own experience in your day-to-day life and being willing to try things, and not everything's going to work, that is how you figure out what works for you. Okay, so I've given you her background, but I couldn't possibly put her entire life story in this one, 20 or so minute episode. So let's focus on the email she sent me, because what happened was we had our one-to-one session. She was traveling with her husband, and on the call, she told me how thrilled she was. And she told me the story, and I said, can you just write it up for me? Because I want to make sure I get it right. And I would love to share it with those of you who are curious about the Feel Your Best formula and how to get these types of results for yourself. So here it is in Lisa's words. This is what she said. She said, this week I was away on vacation, and as I was packing, I was looking at my clothes, thinking how I hate all of them, and I didn't know what to bring. I brought a maxi dress that I always bring, but the last time I put it on was May, June. I immediately took it off because I didn't like the way I looked in it. So she's talking about when she tried it on in the spring, early summer time frame. Even with Spanx on, I felt overweight and uncomfortable. This was when I first started working with you, and all I wanted was for the number on the scale to go way down. I wasn't sure how this whole maintenance mode thing was going to work, or if it would work at all. I couldn't believe that eating more it would work instead of skipping meals. I wasn't sure if this would actually give me the results I was looking for. Since then, my whole mindset has changed, and I'm finally starting to see results, but I didn't believe it until this week. And she's got like big exclamation point there. As I was getting dressed for dinner the other night, I realized I'd forgotten my Spanx, and I was sure I was going to hate how I looked and most likely throw the dress back in the suitcase. Amazingly, the dress was loose without the Spanx, and I didn't even need to pull in my stomach to feel like I looked okay. Although I've been in a fat loss phase for about 4 weeks, the scale has not changed all that much, and when I look in the mirror, I see slight changes, but not enough to convince myself. Putting on this dress changed everything. I wore it with confidence in knowing that finally the hard work of committing to eating to nourish myself and not starve myself, as well as lifting weights on a regular basis and getting in daily activity, is really paying off. Thank you so much, Lil. I could not have done this without your help. I was definitely skeptical, but stayed the course, and it's been eye-opening. Woo! I wasn't expecting to get emotional there, but she really got me with that sentence about nourishing herself versus starving herself and lifting weights, because that is what it's all about. You got me there, Lisa. All right. So, okay, what happened here? So she's lost a few pounds. I think she's down at this point, she was down maybe 2.5 to 3 pounds from when she started her fat loss phase. And remember, a fat loss phase is often going to be a lot slower on the scale because you're just losing fat. You're not losing all that water and muscle and all that other crap that you lose when you do a fad diet and slash your calories. All right. So the scale had not moved much. And I also want you to think about, what if she had been a brand new client of mine and we just jumped into her fat loss phase and she was down 2 or 3 pounds? Would she have seen the same results that she saw with that type of movement on the scale? So what she did, she spent about 4+ months building muscle, nourishing her body, working on her overall habits, her daily activity level, her sleep, cutting back on alcohol, all of those things that we talk about on here. She has been building her Feel Your Best formula. And what you're seeing here is body recomposition. If back in May, when she signed up with me, we had just dove into a fat loss phase, would she be seeing this type of result? 1000% not, because she has built muscle and lost body fat through her habits. The scale has really not moved, but she was eating in maintenance. And because she's a beginner, she was able to harness this very special situation and build muscle and lose fat at the same time, therefore changing the shape of her body without really seeing much change on the scale. Remember when I told you she'd been inconsistent in her workouts when we first started working together? She had been doing maybe 1 or 2 workouts per week, and on a good week, maybe she was doing 3 workouts, but they'd been a mix of cardio dumbbell workouts, and she was not lifting heavy in a way that was going to build real muscle. And that was something we worked on. And then she got to a point where she was doing 2 days a week, and now she's up to 4 days a week. And again, this is her self-leadership committing to it. In the beginning, she was like, oh, I haven't been making the time. I'm not sure when I'm going to do the workout. And it's so funny how that time appears when we make the decision to commit to it. That time just suddenly appears in our calendar. We also start bringing our workout clothes with us when we travel. And on my podcast episode about traveling, being on vacation, and bringing your habits with you, I talk about this. These habits just become who you are, and you are who you are no matter where you are in the world. So the cool thing here is that she was basically a beginner, especially when it came to her workouts. And when she started building her habits with me, even though she was eating at her maintenance calories, she was not in a calorie deficit. She was eating the right amount of calories to maintain her body mass, but she was able to lose fat and build muscle at the same time, which is something that is generally unique to someone who is a beginner. So for the past few months, she's been building her Feel Your Best formula, upping her daily activity level, consistently working out, which I said went from like 1 or 2 per week to now 4, consistently. And I can visually see on our Zoom calls that her face is thinner, and she was wearing a tank top on our call. And I said, hey, your shoulders are looking really defined, and I can see the progress there. Again, the scale has not changed. The reason she was able to look and feel the way she does now is because she had taken that time to build muscle and nourish her body by following the custom plan that we created for her. Again, this is a collaboration. This isn't me barking at you. You need to follow this workout program 6 days a week, blah, blah, blah. This is us collaborating and her deciding what effort she's going to put in. We build on the habits step by step and do it in a way that just feels really organic and easy. There, of course, are times when it's uncomfortable, when we're faced with new decisions and we have to find new ways of working through obstacles. But it is a collaborative process, because you just blindly following a plan that someone else made is not a plan that's made for you, and is probably not going to work, because you have to take part in deciding on the habits that are going to work for you. This took months of hard work on her end. And the hardest part is the mindset shift, where you say, I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to understand that just jumping into weight loss and trying to make the scale go down isn't going to get me to a new place. It's going to bring me right back to where I am. You guys, it's hard when all of our lives we've been told skinny is best, the scale needs to go down, you need to be on a diet all the time, etc., etc., etc. You know that messaging that we get. Yet here she is seeing results. And let me tell you, eating in maintenance while building habits and building muscle is so much more enjoyable than forcing yourself to diet and being hungry all the time and not taking the time to build the muscle. You can't build muscle when you're on a strict diet. And then you lose the weight and you don't look the way you want to look because you need to build muscle to be toned. And it's this whole vicious circle. So yes, she's in a fat loss phase right now. And we actually decided that she's going to continue on the fat loss phase through the holidays. She was so ready for it. And even though I would say for most people, it's not the best time to be dieting or in a calorie deficit or in a fat loss phase, however you want to phrase it. But she worked so hard for these past 5 months to build the habits that are making the fat loss phase pretty easy for her. She literally said, this fat loss phase is pretty easy. And we have a flexible plan. We're going to work on making sure that she's still able to enjoy the holidays, and on a week by week basis, make sure that we're planning for any events or anything like that and how she's going to approach that. But this is an individual decision for each of my clients. Most of them are in maintenance through the holidays, but for her, this felt right. The best part of all of this is how she feels. She does want to lose the body fat, obviously, but she knows the fat loss phase is only going to be for about 10 to 12 weeks and that she can go back into maintenance. The other thing that my clients really understand is that they're not working towards a goal weight. They're working to a point where they understand the process and they get to decide where they stop and where they land, because this is uncharted territory. We're not trying to get back to the weight that we were when we were 25 years old. We're deciding how we want to look in our bodies at 45, 47, 50, 53, 55, 60. We are creating a new goal for ourselves. Not feeling like you need to be on a diet all the time and understanding that a fat loss phase should be temporary is so good for your mental health and building confidence. And that's really what she has done over these past 5 months, is building confidence. And that confidence comes from knowing how to make decisions. Okay. That's part of being confident, is saying, I know how to make a decision. Do you know many confident people who hem and haw over making decisions? No, they're good decision makers because they have confidence and they trust themselves. I know I talk a lot about maintenance on here and how important it is all the time. So I hope hearing Lisa's story really helps you realize that you may be in the perfect position to do your own body recomposition just like she did, and see the changes that you desire without ever spending 1 minute on a diet. This is absolutely an individual case-by-case basis. It requires commitment and dedication to a nutrition plan that's going to support those goals. You can't just eat what you want and lift weights and expect to see the same results. She follows her specific macro plan, but I promise it's a lot easier than you think it is, okay? If you are curious about getting a custom macro count for yourself or one-to-one coaching, then fill out the coaching application in the episode details below. And even if you just want a one-time macro count, sometimes that can be a great stepping off point for you to move forward with confidence in understanding how to make those decisions. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please give a virtual high five to Lisa. I'm so freaking proud of her. I love working with her, and she is the reason that she is successful. I am just here to help guide the process, but she is the one that's making it happen for herself. All right, that's it for today's episode. I will see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend, and thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check the episode details for my new listener starter guide, and any additional resources mentioned in the episode can also be found in the show notes on my website. You can always find me on Instagram at Macros with Lil, and for more healthy lifestyle tips, recipes, and information on my one-to-one and group coaching services, make sure to check out my website. All the links can be found below. If you know someone else who is ready to start building their formula for feeling their best, please share the love and send them a link to the podcast. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I'll see you back here next week for a brand new one.